And so one of the things that we have really defined as a part of this entire study is that a personal brand is not about what you do. It is about who you are. Like, I want to see what it's like to be the mom or the dad or the husband or the wife or the friend. It's like, I want to see you cooking spaghetti, not just flashing your private jet and your fancy car and talking about your course all the time. It's like, I want to see the humanity component of who you are, because that is equally as important in this decision to me than just what you do.
Welcome back to the Think Media podcast. Sean Cannell here, and I'm excited for today's topic, all about personal branding and a groundbreaking new study that actually reveals some actual data and insights of why personal branding matters, why it'll lead to more revenue, more trust, more growth for your social media platforms, your business, and your brand and impact overall. And my guest today is AJ Vaden. Now, if you're just meeting her, she's the CEO and co-founder of Brand Builders Group and one of the world's leading experts in personal brand strategy. And over the last 15 years, she's helped launch and start multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses. Along with her company, Brand Builders Group, AJ has also been featured in Success Magazine, Inc., Fast Company, Entrepreneur, and Good Morning America. And this study actually revealed some super powerful things that we're going to be unpacking today. So buckle your seatbelt, because there's a lot of value coming up. But AJ, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, so happy to be here. I got lots of things to share, so we're going to have to cram it all in.
So I'm super pumped to dive into it. I want to just kind of read some things, and I've already been looking at this study. It's super exciting. And one of the things that is true about the study, and of course you'll break it down, but this is a next level validated data, weighted US census that revealed 74% of Americans are more likely to trust someone who has an established personal brand. 67% of Americans are willing to spend more money on products and services from companies of founders whose personal brands align with their own values. And even for bigger companies that are maybe, our audience is a lot of YouTube creators and really like author, speaker, content creator, personal brands, even big corporations are really benefiting from personal branding. And so before we dive into some of your insights and the things that surprised you from this study, what is your definition of personal branding?
Yes, well, I'm going to give you a two-part answer to that question because there's my opinion and what our company, Brand Builders Group, defines as a personal brand. But then we also asked that exact same question to our audience. It was over 1,000 Americans who participated in this 6-month process of gathering all of this research. But I would say that a personal brand simply is the digitization and or the monetization of your reputation. And I really do believe that personal brand and reputation are synonymous. They're not all that different. It's just a personal brand is a more proactive, intentional approach of expanding your reputation, whereas the reputation that you have is the more reactive. It just is what it is. It's by default, whereas a personal brand is that proactive effort of saying, this is what I want to be known for, so I'm going to be known for that. But it truly is just a formalization of your reputation in a proactive manner. Now, that's how we would define it. But we asked the exact same question in our study, which is, what is a personal brand? And this was really interesting because a ton of people came back and said it's content creators. Most of the people we asked said they're professional service people, which was not even on our radar. But at the end of the day, if you kind of like consolidate all these different things that Americans said, I think the easiest way to define a personal brand for Americans today is it's simply someone who is recognizable. That's it. Not famous, not an influencer, and I use the bunny ears there on purpose, but it's someone who is simply recognizable. So that could be in your industry, in your own company, in your local area, but it's just someone that is well known.
And I love, as we unpack this and dive into the insights of the study, as well as tips for building our personal brands, I love that you said, and essentially this could either happen by accident, because we're all going to build a reputation regardless, or we could be intentional. Or also, if we're not intentional, we may not end up getting known, especially as it pertains to growing our businesses into the future of this next decade. I mean, I'm so passionate about personal branding, but let's just, I mean, you're here with this brand new study. There's so much to unpack. What are some of the insights and data that surprised you?
Yeah, so there are several things that I think are really, really significant for the way that we do business today. And since we're in the business of personal branding, we talk with people all the time about what is a brand and do you need one and how do you get one? But here's the thing that we get hit up with all the time is that people naturally assume that somehow personal branding is directly correlated to social media. And that's just not true. Social media is a part of how people hear about you and learn from you. But that actually has nothing to do with your actual personal brand. And so what we have seen is that for quite a while, people have seen it as more of this thing that you do if you're an online influencer, or it's a vanity project. And what we're seeing now, specifically with Gen Z, who is age 18 to 25, the emerging workforce, it's no longer a thing of popularity and vanity, but they actually declare it a critical and essential part of doing business and how they make decisions. And I think that's the turn of events here, because personal branding has really gone from this thing that maybe authors and speakers and podcasters do to become more well-known to, this is a critical and necessary part of doing business today. And some of the statistics that you shared are also ones that we find that are really important. Like 67% of Americans say they are willing to spend more money, not just money, but more money from companies whose founders have personal brands that align with their own personal values. So I'm going to kind of stop there for a second, because we did so many case studies on this very particular topic, because we're talking about more than 2/3 of Americans are going, this is no longer about some company or entity or organization who's just selling me stuff anymore. It's due to a variety of reasons that I'm sure we could go down a deep, dark rabbit hole on that we don't need to go down. People want to know who is behind this company. I want to know what their missions and values are. And if I like them and I align with them, I will buy from you, be loyal to you, and spend more money with you because of the person, not the company.
These are, you've already done a fire hose of insights here, but I'm a small town kid and grew up on a farm, 6 acres in Arlington, Washington. And it's funny because, personal branding, like you said, probably gets stereotyped or does get stereotyped in, oh, it's influencers, or it's vanity, or it's about fame. And you're saying, no, it's actually essential. It's the digitization of your reputation, which I think actually everybody listening from any generation can relate to, because whether it's a small town that you grew up in, there was different characters that had a reputation in that town. Maybe it was the reputation of the guy that kind of always woke up late and showed up to football practice with kind of some like alcohol in his breath. My experience, whether it was the guy, he's always got his Bluetooth earbud in. He's a contractor, and people know your name in the city. They maybe know what you do. They know where you work. You start. It's kind of small town rules. Well, now that's been amplified by the internet. And it's an essential component of trust and doing business. I think about how important this is. I'm a millennial, but for me making decisions, someone was trying to sell me solar panels the other day. And after an hour-long presentation at the house, I was very convinced. But I'll tell you what, I became extremely skeptical when I actually started looking into this company's personal brand, specifically their social media, because those were my entry points. I was looking at their Instagram. I'm like, why is this kind of sketch and low quality and not communicating much? Who's really behind this company? Why is there such little internet presence? Why is the quality of their internet presence so low? I don't know if I want to make a $65,000 financed solar panel decision with this company. And what's interesting is I actually was convinced by the presentation that I wanted to do solar panels, but then they lost my trust because of essentially the personal brand. I didn't really know where the values of the company were. And some of those points could have been the difference, or certainly would have been the difference between me signing up and doing business right there or not doing it, which was the case. And I passed on the opportunity to later probably end up getting solar panels from Costco.
Yeah, that was interesting. You said two things there that actually were a part of our study that we said were equally as important. And 69% of older millennials, and I have to pause because if you go and like actually download this entire study, we split the millennial age group into older millennials, which are 36 to 44, and then younger millennials, which are really 26 to 33 on purpose, because it's a vastly different, I would just say, socioeconomic, psychographic status in this older millennial, younger millennial. But older millennials, 69% of them said they will check out the online personal brand before they make a purchase decision. And I just want to pause about that because I know so many people, and we'll just pick on professional services just for a second, because we're in professional services, so I can pick on us for a moment. But how many CPAs, doctors, dentists, lawyers just think that's not what they need? Like it's like I've built my business on word of mouth and referrals, and we're saying, no, you did that with the baby boomers and maybe Gen X, but if you want to stay in business, the future of business, you need to have an online established personal brand because people no longer want to buy just products and services. They expect for you to educate them. They want to learn from you before they buy from you. And I think that's a really huge clarifying point of the importance of a personal brand in general, is that if you're just selling products and services, this emerging consumer buying power in the United States with millennials, which we already own it, but then with Gen Z, they're going, no, I don't want to buy from a company who just sells products and services. I want to be able to be educated and informed, and I want you to teach me stuff before I buy from you. And most of the time, that's going to happen online. And I think that's really important. But then on top of that, we even said when making a purchase decision today, what are the most important factors that you look for before you do that, right? So what are the most important decisions that factor into who you spend money with? And there were tons of them. Now, this is in the context of a personal brand, but we said, is it important to have a book? And does that book need to be a best-selling book or a New York Times best-selling book? Do you need a podcast? What about viral TED Talks, consulting, speaking, training? There was a whole long list of things. This blew my mind because I was absolutely certain that having a New York Times best-selling book or being a top 50 ranked podcast or having a viral TED Talk would be somewhere near the top of the list. Nope. And let me tell you what, this was so fascinating to me. This was number 10 on the list, and there were 4 things that tied for equal number 10. And Americans said that having a blog, yes, a blog, a self-published book, a traditionally published book, or a New York Times best-selling book carried the exact same weight in how they made purchase decisions. I just want you to let that sink in for a second. A blog, which takes me approximately 5 to 7 minutes to put online with no thought or research, or a New York Times best-selling book that you will spend years and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars writing, editing, promoting, publishing, have the exact same importance level. But then, let me tell you what they said was the most important thing. And these were the 3 most important things by far and away from everything else. The number 1 most important thing that Americans said that they want to see about you in order for them to buy from you is they want to see third-party testimonials online. What? That's like the cheapest, fastest, easiest thing that we can be doing. But they say, I want to hear what other people just like me had to say about working with you. I don't really care if you have a viral TED Talk. I don't really care if you're a top host. I don't care about all that other stuff. But what did other people say? That was the first thing. The second thing is I want to know if you actually get paid by other people to speak and consult on this topic. And then the third thing is that you have a nice website. Those are the top 3 things.
Man, this is pretty powerful. And that quote you said, people want to learn from you before they buy from you. You know, we really help people build their influence on YouTube. 65% of people, Google revealed, go to YouTube trying to solve a problem. They have a pain point. They want to answer a specific question. you can create content to get in front of those questions and help people. People want to learn from you first before they want to buy from you. But now we can power up our personal brands by maybe they're doing research. They want to hire us for our client services, our professional services, our coaching, maybe an online course, maybe book sales is the goal, or to get hired to speak. How's your website doing? Think Media Podcast. How have you got some video testimonials, some written testimonials? And I like AJ, go into, they want to know that people hire you to speak. So therefore, we should probably spend at least some time maybe trying to get on some stages, would you say, in our industry, at niche events related to our industry. Unpack that point a little bit.
Yes. And I think a lot of this comes from perceived credibility, right? And a part of building an established personal brand is that you are credible in your marketplace. And that could be industry or location, but you're seen as credible. And so that could be at trade shows, that could be at conferences, that could be at public seminars. Those could be on online webinars that you even host for yourself, but then you offer those as masterclasses to other organizations. But what people are saying is that if other people are willing to pay for you to talk and consult on this, it gives me more confidence, thus more credibility and trust that you know what you're doing. It's this perceived expertise that's really important. And a lot of that too is connected to the third-party testimonials. They want to know that other people do this and other people are willing to pay for it before they do.
Man, so personal branding is the future, especially if you want to not just be in business today, but in business tomorrow. You got to be thinking about being intentional with your personal brand. Personal branding is highly profitable. And when we have built a strong personal brand, viewers, the study that studied people here in America are willing to spend more. So we also can charge higher prices, not a race to the bottom with our products and services, but actually we can be more premium because of that perceived value and because of that personal brand. And also personal branding is a trust accelerator. And this is the digitization, as you said, because now business is being done online, but people do business. The rules have not really changed. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so how do we accelerate trust? The answer is personal branding. What other insights do we need to know that this study unpacked?
Yeah, so this is like a 3-part piece of information I think is really important. So 67%, right, of Americans say they're more likely to buy from you if you have an established personal brand. But then we kind of said, okay, well, if that's generally speaking, does this get differentiated if we segment the industries? And so we were super curious to go, well, does this mean more or matter more based on the type of industry that you're in? And Americans, through this study, said that they saw the most value in professional services and having a personal brand. Now, that is important to break down because this was not what we expected. We thought it would be consultants and trainers and coaches. Nope, it was professional services. And so as we dug into that a little bit more, we said, well, what about professional services exactly? Why is this such a correlation to having an established personal brand and us being willing to trust you, buy from you, recommend you? And so then we said, well, which ones? Like, help us understand. And the 3 most important out of all of the ones that we asked for, and it was dozens of industries or professions, but it was doctors, lawyers, and employers. So the person who pays your check, your doctor, and your lawyer. And so I just want you to pause about that because I'm gonna talk to you about our hypothesis around this from this data. And if you just sit there and you think about it for a second and you go, okay, let's hold up just for a moment because we're on this topic of trust acceleration. And that's really where this, key finding came from is we're going, actually, the connectedness between having an established personal brand and trust are directly connected with someone's ability to see you, know you, align with you, learn from you way before they buy from you. And then the reason this was so high for doctors and lawyers and employers were for these 3 reasons. And it's, you better trust your doctor because your life is in their hands. And you better trust your employer because your livelihood is in their hands. And yes, you need to trust your lawyer because your freedom is in their hands. And so what we really saw is that the higher the level of trust that's required, the more established your personal brand has to become. And that is really what we're sitting with here. It's what are you sharing to allow people to go, you know what you're talking about. And so thus I can trust you and I will buy from you. And so doctors, lawyers, and employers, and then financial services, your financial advisor was right underneath that. But this was not at all what we thought when we started out with this study. We thought it was going to be very much this coach or trainer consultant market. And it was like far down the list. And it was the more everyday professions of going, no, I need my doctor to be putting out content and educating me. So I know if this is what I believe in and this is what I align with. And the same thing, employee retention and employee loyalty directly connected to their alignment with the founder, not the company. And so to break this down just one more piece, this was not from our study, but it's a connected piece of the study. The study was done by Source Trends, but Source Trends actually reports that 95% of millennials say that their most credible source of product information are their friends. Now that is fascinating and terrifying at the exact same time. Because I want you to think about like your group of your like 10 closest friends. And we're going, these are the most credible people who are influencing our purchase decisions. And it's absurd until you go, but wait, these are the people that you know, like, and trust. They're your friends.
Wow. And, this next decade, we've been saying it's going to be the best decade in the creator economy and YouTube. That's what the data supports. And what's interesting is, especially doing business online, product purchasing online, purchase decisions online, e-commerce is still less than 20%. By 2022, it's not even supposed to be 20%. It's shocking because I always ask people, how many percentage of people do you think are shopping online versus in physical stores? And people say 9 out of 10, 75%, 65%, because they go, I buy everything online. AJ, you probably have Amazon boxes coming to your house every day. Rory's got 5 books on the porch probably every day. That's just like me. And so stuff's like continuing, but across America, that is not necessarily the reality. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably in a very forward thinking, kind of a progressive mindset in terms of that. What does that mean though? That as more people start to come online, as more people are looking for data, people they can trust to give them quality information about products they want to purchase. The way I originally built financial freedom was I built a 6-figure income reviewing tech on YouTube. And so I want our community to hear like, this is so real. And your positioning of a powerful personal brand and building of that trust is the unlock to you really being financially successful in this next decade. I really believe that if you actually are having trouble with course sales, with your even YouTube videos converting with whatever's converting, it might not be a strategy tactics problem. It might not be a click-through rate on your thumbnail problem. Sure, you need to get more viewership, but the trouble really could be is it might be a trust problem. What are you doing intentionally to build a strong personal brand, to communicate your values, to build a bond? Because to the degree that people trust you, personal branding, those with that strong trust factor, they're willing to spend more money on products and services. And they're also just looking for someone they may not trust the brand website. They may not trust even reviews or whatever it is. They're looking for, quote unquote, the influencers, the YouTuber, the Instagram person who they can learn from first and then potentially buy from. That's not just your products. That could be affiliate marketing that you're doing. AJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And there was something that you said in there that made me think about one of the data points that we dug into that I think is really relevant to this conversation. And it's that 53% of millennials say that individuals who promote content and ideas are more influential in purchase decisions than those who just promote products and services. And so I just want to pause about that for a second. And I would like to say that I think most people's biggest problems online is that they don't let people know enough about who they are. And all they do is talk about what they do. And so one of the things that we have really defined as a part of this entire study is that a personal brand is not about what you do. It is about who you are as a human being. And so often I think we get stuck in, okay, I've got to be like talking content wise only about these products and services that I'm connected to. And what Americans are saying, it's like, no, I also want to see your humanity. Like, I want to see what it's like to be the mom or the dad or the husband or the wife or the friend. It's like, I want to see you cooking spaghetti, not just flashing your private jet and your fancy car and talking about your course all the time. It's like, I want to see the humanity component of who you are, because that is equally as important in this decision to me than just what you do. And so it's how are we combining both of those things into helping people fall in love with who we are, not just the stuff that we do.
That's incredibly powerful. And I also think that those who have, because there's so many different monetization methods, and you teach that in all your training too. You find the best vehicles, the paids. And if you haven't checked out, we have a couple past episodes with AJ's husband, Rory Vaden, AJ's husband. Rory Vaden, on personal branding and on our title formulas episode. So definitely make sure to check that out in the description down below. But when you're diving into the paids, I think about those who build a real movement. They build a real super fan base. And maybe their method of earning income is maybe merch. It's people who really want to know and support and wear their logo. That doesn't happen just by accident. It's not really just graphic design ability that is where that magic is unlocked. It's exactly what you said. People are buying into the person. They're having that affinity to the person. And it's not just what they do, but it's also who they are. And we're talking values here. And one of the things that you guys have is the brand DNA Helix. And in just a second, we're going to get into some more tips, but a couple things that you need to know. First, you got to download this study. And so we'll put a link to this study that's in the description, or you can check it out on the podcast show notes on whatever platform that you're listening. Really unpack it, because we can only really scratch the surface with the insights that will help you powerfully position and build your personal brand. So get that. And then also, if you actually are interested in a free strategy call for building and monetizing your personal brand, you could connect with Brand Builders, AJ's team, and they will help you with an assessment of where you at now and help guide you on how to stand out in a crowded marketplace. So if you're interested in that, that's at freebrandcall.com/think. And we'll put that in the show notes as well and tell you a little bit more about that later. But AJ, help us unpack our values. And for those saying, I don't know, do I just go into story time? I mean, if I want to add value in a video, do I just tell my life story? How can I incorporate who I am more? And what are maybe even some tactics I could apply across social media and in my YouTube videos to build that bridge and that bond in my content?
Yeah, I think there's two quick things there. And then you have to remind me to come back to 2 case studies. I was like literally having to hold myself back as you were talking because they're so relevant to this conversation, and they're in the study. So if we don't get to them, you'll get them in the download. But here are 2 things. And these are 2 things that I think are really, really important. And to some degree, and I'm going to say, I'm not saying this is black and white and go all in either way, but to some degree, pick some platforms of choice that are more personally oriented versus more businessy, professionally oriented. Like, so for example, like if you want to get to know me, AJ Vaden, the human being, the mom, wife, friend, sister, daughter, Christian, like whatever, it's like, you're going to learn about that on Instagram. I post very little content in terms of our business or personal branding or anything like that on my Instagram. It is a genuine lifestyle. Like, this is me as a person. And so people know, it's like, if they want to get to know me and my personal values and my personal alignment, like that's where they're going to get it. They also know that if they want to learn content and ideas about business, entrepreneurship, personal branding, the study, they're going to get that on LinkedIn. And so it's like, I very much intentionally created some division of how I source my profiles to create this opportunity for me to go all in on business and then all in on personal, to create that more unique, loyal following. And I've also found that most of my people follow me on both because they want both from me, but some want more of the business and less of the personal, and others are vice versa. So it's choose the platforms in which, and that's just looking at your data. It's getting into your data and going, what posts get the most engagement? What post gets the most reach? And on Instagram, I will post something about this study, and then I will post a picture of me practicing t-ball with my 2 toddlers, and it's 100 times the engagement. And so you got to just know your audience on each of these platforms, which means you got to be into the data. That's the first thing. The second thing, with every single thing that you talk about with your business, you have to train yourself to speak through the lens of you as a person before you do it as you as a business. And so one of the practices that we do is we have our avatar, right? Like this, we have a very specific person we know, in my case, her name, her age, her psychographics, what her needs are, her wants, her desires, her limiting beliefs, where she lives, what her economic status is, what kind of job she has. Like I know who my ideal client is. And before I start talking about our business or doing a podcast interview, I've got her in mind. And it's like I'm speaking to this person, and I know this person because I relate to him because that's who I used to be. And so it's speaking from this personal state of I know who this is because this was me. And then it's easier to talk about my own failures and my own shortcomings and my own successes. It's both. I talk a ton about me as a working mom, but that's not my identity. That's just a part of what I do. Like being a mom or being a CEO is not who I am. Those are titles and those are things that I do. And so it's like, how do you weave all of these components in to be a part of the business and being really clear on what those missions and values are and actually sharing those with the public because it actually means something. And I think, I'm going to share this really quick. I think Elon Musk is a great example of this, right? And I'm not going to say I am one way or the other. I'm just using this as a case study. But he's got a cult-like following for people who are super innovative and super into technology, right? And this is the power of a personal brand at play when it comes to connecting who you are with, in this case, currencies, right? And so if you guys are into, the cryptocurrency world, specifically Bitcoin, then there are trends all over that literally follow Elon Musk's tweets and watch how the market goes up and down based on his tweets, right? So in January of 2021, this year, he simply changed his Twitter bio to hashtag Bitcoin. And simultaneously, in the next 24 hours, the Bitcoin price increased 20%. Then, just a few months later, he shared that Tesla was not going to be accepting Bitcoin, dropped 12%. Just 30 days later, changed his tune, increased back up 11%. So it's watching someone who got these deep personal values around technology and innovation and the environment and climate and all these things. And people are going, I align with that. So what he does, I'll do. So you've got personal brands that are influencing purchase decisions. You've got other personal brands that are influencing entire currencies at a huge macro level there. And then I don't know if anyone on your audience base is a huge soccer player, but I would be remiss if I did not share this story because I'm new to the world of soccer, but I attend a lot of peewee soccer. So I'm getting into it right now a lot. But this is also a really good example to talk about like actual dollars and cents, not just followers and influence, but actual dollars and cents. And so earlier this year, just August, I think. So we're talking about just like a couple of months ago, Leo Messi, right, made this very unexpected announcement that he was leaving FCB, Barcelona Soccer Club, and he was going to be moving over to PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, right? I also have to say, I know just enough to sound like I know what I'm talking about here. I do not know the world of soccer, so give me a little grace. But this is a really important story, so I shall continue. So once he made that announcement, well, first of all, the huge thing that was going on in the media are these unprecedented salaries that he would be receiving. And he signed a deal with $41 million a year with a $30 million signing bonus. That is unprecedented. I've never heard of, never happened before ever for one player and a club that isn't maybe quite at the top of their game. And so then the question was, why would they do this? And will they get a return on their investment? right? Now, why they would do it is actually simple, in my opinion, because if you just look at social stats, Leo Messi has 260 million followers on just Instagram. Do you know how much the PSG club has? 38 million. And they gained 11 million followers in the 24 hours after his arrival to PSG. Now, that's just on an influence base, a follower base. But in that exact same 24 hours after Messi landed in Paris and they had the jerseys printed with Messi on them, they sold $100 million in merch in 24 hours at a 10% profit margin and picked up $10 million in the first 24 hours in just merch. Sold out. People were waiting for out. It was like, the new iPhone came out, but it was a jersey. And this is before ticket sales. This is before anything else. This is just merch because of one person, not a team, a person. Like, they know that people follow the players as much, if not more, than they do teams. The loyalty is with the person, not with the club.
Wow. Now, that's incredible case studies. And I want to kind of bring that now down to a street level, though, especially for the listener and myself that says, okay, well, I'm not quite to 60 million Instagram followers, yet, 100 million or whatever. I haven't necessarily created that fandom yet. And so kind of stepping into, how do we start leveling up our personal brand? What are some of the first steps and actions, and how do we maybe pull that down? Because of course, it's a perfect illustration of what we might want to have happen on a smaller level, right? And so what are some practical first steps now to put this information into practice? And maybe some of the biggest mistakes we could be making by not using social media at all, using social media wrong, not having a website. I mean, there's a lot, obviously. People should definitely reach out to you because this is a whole journey, but give us some first steps.
Yeah, so I would say the first step is, and this is, I don't care if you have an established personal brand or you don't even know what one is, even after this interview. The first thing is you have to know, what problem do you solve? Like, for the world, for your audience, for one person, but what problem do you solve? And that is the first step. And that's the hardest step for most people because what they talk about is all over the place. So no one knows what to go to you for. And they need to know what to go to you for. They need to know, what do I associate Sean with? What do I associate AJ with? Like, what are they going to be able to help me with? So what problem do you solve? That's the first thing. The second thing is you got to know who you solve it for. And that should dictate what you post about, where you post, how often you post. Those are all the things that are really important, is you really have to be tailoring it to the person that you are speaking to, the person that you're solving this problem for. It's, what do they need to know? And how do they need to hear it? And where do they need to hear it? And, just data-wise, some of the data points say that, in the older generations, Gen X and baby boomers, 60% of the older generations say the relevancy of the content to where I am right now is the most important thing with who they follow online. And it's relevancy of content. So a part of that is just going, what's relevant to my audience? And you got to get into the psyche of the audience. So a lot of this data is interesting, but how do you make it applicable? And a huge part of that is knowing, who is my audience and where are they online? And it's appealing to them there. Now, for younger generations, it was similar, but different in the fact they said that 42% of the younger generations, Gen Z and millennials, said that personality-driven content was the most important thing to them. So for the older generations, it was more about, how do I take this content and apply it to something that is relevant in my business or in my life? Whereas the younger generations are going, well, I want personality-driven content. I want to be following people that I like and align with. That could be entertaining or informational, but it's personality-driven. And so if you just take those two things and go, okay, if I don't know anything else about my audience other than roughly how old I think they are, these two things alone will really help you, because one is very much about, give me relevant information to improve my life and my business right now. And then you got to ask yourself, well, what are those specifics? And now if it's a younger generation demographic, you got to be going, all right, they want personality-driven content, which means they want more of me sharing real life experience and expertise. not theory, but real life mistakes, real life wins. And you got to weave that into this. Now, I think this is also important because I share these big case studies of people who have huge followings, because you see what massive reach can do. But at the same time, the least important thing to every single generation was the number of followers that you have. It does not matter if you have 1 or 100 million. That had the least amount of things to do with deciding who I follow, listen to, learn from, engage with. It was the least important thing.
And the most important thing was relevancy of content that was solving their problems and meeting them right where they were.
Yeah, for the older generations, and then personality-driven content for the younger generations.
Wow. So if I'm hearing you, I got to get really clear on, who I am, and self-awareness and my values, my mission, my strengths, because that's going to identify what problem do I solve. And then I got to get really clear on who do I solve that problem for? Who is my audience? And if you're on the Think Media podcast, you've heard that before, but I want to challenge you to take a breath and really assume that you don't know number two. I'll be honest with you. We're 10 years into this. We're on our way past 2 million subscribers. We're building an 8-figure business or have built an 8-figure business. And, we are asking that number two every day, and shocked and stunned by how little we actually know of our audience. Now, clearly we have made it where we are because we've gone through the initial steps of that, but we're about to do an entire audience survey. We're realizing that over time, there can be almost like mission drift or vision drift, or essentially alignment with your audience drift, just because you can become out of touch. Have you ever thought about that? I used to like that person, but they're kind of out of touch now. So we are aware that we're diving deep. What are our core audience avatars, psychographics? What are they thinking about? What keeps them up at night? What are their problems? What are their ambitions? And as far as some action items on today's podcast, what are the most relevant topics you could be talking about? You know, on YouTube, before you have a good title or a good thumbnail or even good content, you got to be talking about the right topics. You got to be talking about the right things. And if you're talking about the things that your audience and target viewer cares about the most and adding value to that, that's going to be absolutely powerful. And you just gave us some generational insights. What generation are we after? Maybe if we're trying to reach everybody, we might end up reaching nobody. But as far as a little bit older generations, the value piece, the relevancy, younger generations, are you weaving enough personality into your content? Maybe you have been so about just business and adding value that you haven't realized to build a bridge with the next generation. They need to know what you care about. They need to know about your poodle. They want to know you're into, Back to the Future, or that you're into soccer, or those nuances. You're a sports fan. You're a sci-fi reader and fantasy fiction reader, or whatever it is. All these nuances and bridge building things. And so there's a lot of details that we could be focusing on to level up our personal brand. AJ, I'm curious for you, of course, freebrandcall.com/think, because there's nothing more powerful than people being able to get on the phone with your team, because this is so nuanced. And so that one-on-one coaching, Think Media podcast, if you want to jump on a discovery call, use that link. And of course, that's in the show notes. But AJ, if you were to give me literally, what should I do next? I'm going to take the next 30 minutes after listening to this podcast, and I'm going to do an audit, especially maybe my online platforms. And here's the character. I am pretty clear on the kind of content, my niche, who I'm helping. And I am pretty clear on what problem I solve. I could be a business owner or a service provider. I already know I'm doing real estate. I already know I'm a CPA. I already have a book written, so I know the message I want to get out to the world. But I'm staring at the internet, wondering which challenge I should target next. Is it a website? Is it my social? Is it trying to narrow down to one social platform? What are my next 5 moves?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with your next 2, and then we can go from there. And I think this is a really important thing that sums up everything into one really simple question, is you have to be able to answer this. What do I want to be known for? What do I want to be known for? And that can't be 5 things. So what do you want to be known for? And let that guide your next steps. And then the second, more tactical thing is if you were sitting here going, all right, what is my next big move to become more well-known, well-established, grow my business, grow my customer base? What our data shows is that you need to get yourself real busy, real quick, getting client testimonials. That's what I would be doing. I would follow the actual data here of what Americans are actually saying. That's really important. And it's going, wow, when's the last time I actually asked my clients to make me a video testimonial? Or if those aren't very good, maybe I need to interview my clients. Maybe I need to make some interview sales videos. Maybe I need to weave in testimonials as a part of all of the different ways that I ask for feedback. Maybe I need written ones. Maybe I haven't updated or refreshed my testimonials online in years. Maybe I never asked for recommendations on LinkedIn. So I would start there in a very tactical sense. And then I would go right through this checklist in our study of going, then it's ask yourself, do you have the expertise that the market is asking for? And so what they're saying is like, are you paid to speak and consult on these things? So are you signing up for all the different trade shows or conferences or seminars of going, hey, if I want to be seen as this credible expert in this space, then I need to be outside of just my website or my social media or my podcast. And how am I getting myself out there into these other platforms? And doing podcast interviews would count in that arena. And then I would follow the list again and go to number 3. And I would say, now I need to look at my website and go, is that representative of who I am, what I want to be known for, and my audience, both visually and in writing? So what does my copy say? And then does this look, feel, tone, does that really fit who I am today and where I want to be? And more importantly, would this appeal to my core target audience? Because a lot of times we build our websites for ourselves, not for our audiences. And those are really for your audience, unless you just like to go to your own website every day. And so it's like, it's really getting clear on some of those things on a very tactical standpoint, but those should stem from knowing very clearly, what do you want to be known for in your market, or quite honestly, just in life? Like, what do you want when you die, when you're no longer here? What do you want people to say about you? What do you want to be known for when you're no longer here?
Powerful questions. A couple action items, Think Media podcast, that I think we could really apply from this podcast is take some time, even right now, before you jump to the next thing, and reflect on those questions. What do you need? What do you want to be known for? And go as deep as possible. And again, if you want some help, a couple things. Check out the show notes, get the free study. So that'll be linked up across platforms. If you're listening to this on audio, maybe tell Siri to or Google Assistant, hey, remind me when I get home from work today to go back to this YouTube video or this podcast on desktop to download the study and to really unpack some of those details. So that link's in the show notes. And then also, if you're like, man, I really want some more guidance, check out freebrandcall.com/think. And you could jump on with brand builders and they could help you with that. Cass recently did one of those free calls, and actually you're going to get a lot of free insight, a lot of guidance. And then you also hear if you want to work with brand builders or not. AJ and Rory, I've been getting to know AJ just now. I've known Rory for a couple years. I missed AJ when we were recently in Nashville at Vaden headquarters, and just world-class humans. And they've built a world-class team that really has a methodology, a proprietary process to help you get super clear on your personal brand, monetize your personal brand, even scale your personal brand to the million or 8-figure mark. And so they have done this concept to completion. And what I love about them is they're not fluff. They're not like a lot of people in the industry who talk big but have shallow depth, but they have decades of experience in the industry now. New York Times bestselling authors, all kinds of impact that they've made. And they've really done this on a prolific level. So they've developed systems that can really help you. And if that's right for you, don't miss this. Take advantage of freebrandcall.com/think. And then also, if you begin value of this today, I really encourage you to share this with somebody. Maybe there's somebody who's been asleep on personal branding. That is a mistake. Personal branding is the future. It's now is the time. You might feel like you're a little bit behind. You're not behind, but you got to get started right now. If you want to be in a powerfully positioned place a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, the best time to get started really getting all of these details right and built is right now. And you will be stunned. The leads, the sales, the relationships, the impact, the business, the collaborations, the business partnerships, the associations, the networking, the open doors that will happen for you on the other side of personal branding. But it's not going to happen by accident. It's going to happen because of really taking action on the information on this today. So 2 things. If you think of somebody, maybe share this just personally with somebody, text them, let them know about this episode on the Think Media podcast. If you're catching the video version, drop your biggest aha moment in the comments. And if you're on audio, a review really helps us on the podcast. We want to know if this is the type of content that's really helping you in terms of going further faster with your YouTube channel and your business. AJ Vaden, you are an incredible person. I'm so sad that you weren't there when I was hanging out with Rory last time I was in Nashville, but there will be a time. I got to meet your son and one of them. And
they're wild and awesome. So
I have a 1-year-old now. He just turned 1, Sean Bradley Cannell. And so I'm excited for when we can connect to the future. But for those that want to connect with you personally, besides some of the links and resources, and of course, we'll post all your socials, where can people follow you and get more info from you and follow you personally?
Instagram, if you want me as a person, if you want me as a CEO, LinkedIn is it it's AJ Vaden, both places.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Are you ready to start or grow your YouTube channel? Do you feel stuck and need help connecting the dots? Join this free web class where you'll learn the step-by-step playbook for YouTube success. We've helped thousands of purpose-driven entrepreneurs just like you grow their influence with video. Register today for this exclusive training at thinkmasterclass.com.